Okay, we're getting ready to fit the timing case onto the centre crankcase. We've bent up the lock tabs on the main bearing caps. We check that everything's rotating freely, which it is. So I've then put some well seal all the way round, both the inner case and the timing case. We've put in the two new studs at the top here. Those are the studs you have to take out in order to put the crankshaft in, or indeed to take it out. So we've got new studs, and they've been put in just by locking two nuts together. I've just put those in. We've made sure the con rod is at the top, because we don't want to get the thing half on and then find out the con rod's at the bottom. Okay, and I've cleaned and we've prepped all the timing case, and I've just cleaned out the con rod, the camshaft bearings. Again, I used a small piece of Scotch-Brite. I've lost it now, put it down somewhere. Anyway, a sliver of Scotch-Brite just to make sure that these are all nice and clean after the vapor blasting. Then I'm just about to put, so we've got two O-rings, this being a T160. So there's the hole for the cross shaft, which is what enables the gearbox to have a left-hand gear change. So we put that O-ring seal on there, which is going to go there, and then we have an O-ring seal to go round the oil filter aperture. So that goes in there. Okay, and then I think we're ready. Now the main problem we've got, and I've put some assembly lube on the outer race in the timing cover. Now one of the problems we have is when we put this on, the circlip that holds the outer race in exactly locates it in position, the sort of inner edge of it is actually much the same diameter as the outer bearing, and what can happen is that the rollers, when you push this on, the circlip can actually hit the rollers, and then everything goes a bit bonkers. So I'm hoping that's not going to happen. It's always a tight fit because of the dowels. The dowels are a very tight fit, and I think it's those that are always why you can never get a crankcase apart. It's mainly because of the dowels. They are a very tight fit. So I'm going to slot that on over our new studs, and I look down and try and hope that this bearing goes over those. Goes over those rollers. Is that going? I think that's going. Yeah, I think that's going now. Check the con rod's in the right place. It hasn't moved. Yeah. There we go. Pretty home there. It's not tightened up yet. What have we got? Have we got a lock? Oh God, it's locked. Is that bearing not? What's happened? Something's happened. Con rod's okay. not quite fully home that. Yeah, it's better. I'll tighten that casing up because I don't think it's on fully square. The dowels, I think the dowels are holding it off at the top here. You know, I was talking about those dowels being tight, and I think they're holding it away slightly from the casing. So I think when it's all tightened up, well, we'll see. I'll tighten it all up and put all the casing bolts in, and then we'll see what we got then. Okay, coat, that's good. So I put all the bolts in, and bear in mind that there's a Allen screw that goes in there, and there's another smaller Allen screw, or shorter Allen screw I should say, that goes in there. And then we've got these 4 long bolts, and then there's a shorter bolt that goes in at the bottom, and of course the 2 nuts on the studs. Note that we have put in we've replaced the old crankcase bolts because they're not that expensive, and if you're going to go to all the trouble of blasting it and that, then that's something you can do. Just adds that little bit, just, you know, or you can take your old studs and that down and maybe get them blasted, get the heads blasted at the same time as you get the cases done. But they're not that expensive, so it does make that nice finishing touch. Anyway, so now we've done that, then I think we have a nicely turning crankshaft in. So it's just that it just was, you know, fractionally out of line because it wasn't bolted up, and that's why that bearing wasn't happy. And now we're all hunky-dory. So good. So timing side on, and so what we're going to do now is turn the engine round, and we'll put the drive side bearing on. Well, we will the drive side casing on. Right. Oh, as you were, we seem to have the timing cover back off again. Yeah, I thought we just fitted that. We did, but I forgot, if I ever knew, that you cannot fit the camshafts with the timing cover on. You can fit the camshafts, I think, with the yeah, I think so. Yeah, with the drive side on, but you cannot fit them after you fitted the timing side because there's the top of the casing gets in the way. You can't slide them through. So I had to take the cover all back off again, and then I have lubricated all the bearings very heavily, because because these bearings, they're plain bearings, and they really need they need a lot of lubrication. So I'm going to fit these camshafts first, and then put the timing side on. So I'll put those in now. Which is the exhaust? Well, the exhaust camshaft, especially on a T160, easy, because the exhaust camshaft is the one with the drive in it, and on the end for the tacho. On a T150, you'll have an elliptical drive, like in the middle of the camshaft. So I know that is the exhaust camshaft. So I know that that's going at the front. And so the other one has to be the inlet camshaft. So that one is going to the back of the engine. I'll do this one-handed. So now I've got the camshafts in position. Roughly, I'll make sure they're fully lubed up. Then I'm going to redo a bit of well seal just to be on the safe side, and then put the cases back on again. Exactly the same as before, but this time with the camshafts fitted. No comment at all. Okay, so now we're ready to put the drive side casing on. We've put the well seal on both mating faces. We've put the rubber the oil seal around the O-ring around the oil filter on this side and around the cross shaft housing on this side. Obviously we've got both camshafts in place and they are heavily lubed. I've again used a bit of Scotch-Brite and just given the bearing surfaces a bit of a clean, and then heavily lubed the bearing faces for the camshafts in this side. And then I've taken my blowtorch and I've just heated the inner race of the main bearing, because when we put it in we need the bearing to slide over the crankshaft, and it is a tight fit. It's meant to be a tight fit because of course when that's on then the bearing should clamp to the crankshaft, and when the crankshaft turns the bearing should turn and not spin the actual not spin the inner race. You know, the rate, if it's not tight then that can spin on the crankshaft, which you don't want. So but I've just heated that up just to expand it a bit, because obviously it's quite a tight fit on there. But it's a problem because obviously we've got to line up the camshafts and they've got to go in, and then we've got to make sure the bearing goes home over that crankshaft. Okay, yeah, I think everything's ready. Obviously make sure the con rod's in the right place. Yeah. Right, just so we can get these camshafts lined up. There they are. Okay, so that's all lined up. And so it should just tap home now. Yeah, and we'll tighten that up. Okay, and what I'm going to do, I'll probably do this again later. I'm just going to make sure that inner race is fully seated, because what can happen is the race doesn't want to seat, so it's sort of lagging back, and so it goes out of line with the top race, if that makes sense. So then it locks the whole crankshaft up. So I just tap that in, make sure it's fully home, and then the two races are lined up with each other. Right, we've got our mounting bolts. We've got two slightly shorter ones at the top. Then we've got, was it 5? Yeah, 5 longer bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then one shortest bolt again at the bottom, as it was with the other side. Okay, and there we go. Right, so pop those in. Just doing them up very lightly here. That's why I'm not cross or tightening them. I'm literally just doing them up until they bite. Sure about that one? Yeah, that's okay. Right. Okay, I think we're about there. Let's see if we've got a moving crankshaft. Well, let's see if we've got moving camshafts. Yep. Yep. So camshafts both good. Nice Nice, heavy, sticky because of the engine assembly lube, but otherwise good. Oh, that's nice, and we've got and a lovely crankshaft there. Very pleased with that. So yeah, put a well seal there, get that out there. Yeah, that's very nice crankshaft. Yeah, a little heavy, but very good. Very pleased with that. Oops. Okay. Yeah. Excellent, great stuff. Got a bit more assembly lube on that main bearing now that after heating it up and all that. Nice. Yeah, so all good. There we have. The crankcase is basically assembled. So what I'll do next is I will I will clear off all the well seal, all the spare well seal and stuff, get it all cleaned down, and then when everything's clean and that, there's a couple more bits that we'll put on the crankcases that I haven't put on yet for a reason, and then we'll put the crankcases in the frame. So there's a couple of bits that I haven't done. We haven't fitted the where's it gone? The anti-drain valve that goes in there, and the oil pressure release valve that goes in there. And I didn't fit them because before we put the crankcases together, because I want a bit of weight to hold on to tighten them up. Okay, I just thought it'd be easier with a bit of weight of the engine. I can get them nice and tight how I want them. Whereas just on the bench, the casing on its own, you can't necessarily get that tightness. So put those couple of bits in, and then we'll put the whole assembly in the frame. Anyway, so far so good. I'll leave it there for now. I'll come back and clean it all up and that in a minute later on. But pleased. So apart from having to take all the, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Having to take all the timing side off again because I haven't fitted the camshafts. Oh, it's all part of life's rich tapestry, huh? That's what it is. Okay, good. Leave it there for now.